Okay, hello, and welcome to the Finance Magnates Africa Summit. So happy to see so many people here. What a privilege to be here in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm so looking forward to getting a look around and visiting this wonderful city. But for now, we have such an esteemed panel here to start. Well, first, I want to talk about what we're going to be doing here today. I'm Adam Button. I'm the Chief Currency Analyst at ForexLive, something I founded and I've been doing for about 15 years now. I live in Toronto, so it's been a long trip here, and it's going to be a wonderful event. And we have people from the industry here, and we have a lot about trading here today. So we're going to talk a lot about that journey for traders, and a lot about the collaboration that you're going to have with your broker, building the trust, finding success, and that's what it's all about. If we come at it from the broker side, it's how you can have your clients have success, and if we come at it from the trader side, it's how to find that success, the tools you need, the things you need to think about, the things you need to learn. Education is a big part of what I do, and we're going to talk a lot about that as the day goes on. We have some wonderful panels here today. I hope a lot of you stick around for them. We're going to talk about the psychology of trading, something that's very dear to my heart and something I think that traders who have done it for a long time can talk about. I'm going to have a panel shortly about, with some other traders, telling war stories, sharing experience, having a lot of fun, hopefully telling some fun anecdotes about trading in markets. And we're going to have a little bit more industry stuff. And one war story I wish I could tell would have been about buying MasterCard stock at the IPO. We're going to have them here talking about payments in Africa and the future of payments. That's an absolutely dominant company. The IPO, like I said, I wish I would have bought it, was a war story. It's up 1,400% since then in about 15 years. We're talking about the future of crypto in Africa. We'll talk about building trust in funds. These are some guys you can trust right here. And we're going to talk about the futures market as well. But for these people right here, these are 5 of the men who are trying to compete if you're in retail for your business. And they're here to tell you what they're doing, what's working in Africa right now, the amazing growth of the industry in Africa. It's absolutely an esteemed stack panel. So we're going to start right into that right now. So please give a warm welcome to our first panel of the day. Okay, guys, let's get right into it here. What I want to start with is really just give a sense, if anyone can, who's been in this industry a while, about the growth of the industry in Africa and where we're at, and just in the last 5 or 10 or 15 years, where it started from. And Paul, maybe you can take us through it about where we're at in the industry right now.
Sure. So firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone to Cape Town. It's really good to have FMAS here. So welcome to FMAS to everyone that's out of town. This is Exness's regional hub in Africa. This is where we look after our clients. So it's our home. So it's good to have you here. For anyone out of town, just quickly before we go into that, just a couple of rules of the road. It works differently down here to Gauteng and KZN. I know where you guys are from. You keep left, you pass right. In Cape Town, you can drive in any lane you like. Doesn't matter how fast you go, as long as you're looking at the mountain out of one window. So be prepared for that, guys. And to the Cape Townians who's come out today, guys, hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie. So welcome to you as well.
And before we get too much into this, we should introduce ourselves. Why don't we go through the group
so that's
here?
Me.
Let us know who you are and who you're with.
Sure. So my name is Linton. I'm the regional head of ATFX Africa. We also recently set up our head office here in Cape Town. So experiencing the changes from Johannesburg on the driving is a real thing. Never mind the difference in house size as well. Makes a very big difference.
My name is Amar. Excellent to be at FMAS in the mother city. I think a couple of interesting facts from Paul there, but it really makes sense now as to why it just seems like nobody is actually driving in Cape Town anymore. However, we call it mountain fever when we're in Joburg. But excellent to be here. I'm the CEO of TD Markets. So we're South African-born brokerage. We've expanded quite largely on the global scale now. Really excited to see the amount of fintech that is now bubbling up in the Cape region as well.
My name's Ricardo. I am from Webull Securities. Webull is an international retail brokerage with NASDAQ listed company, and we're very new to the South African and African market, and we are in the process of setting up operations here and expanding into the rest of the continent and bringing, I guess, futuristic technology to the retail sector.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm originally from Greece. I have been living in Johannesburg for the past 3.5 years. I live, breathe, and dream HFM. And I'm willing to take a bet with these gentlemen who are the worst drivers, because I think us people in Joburg are the worst drivers. I don't know what these guys are talking about.
Although you're not from Johannesburg.
Okay, so to answer your question, it's an interesting topic for me because in my past life before Exness, I was a trader. I was a full-time trader, institutional trader, and I was trading in London. And in the early sort of 2000s, I'd come back for holidays to Cape Town, and when people asked what I did for a living, and I told them, no one knew what I was talking about. By the end of sort of 2010, 2011, when I used to come back, every second person was trading. So there's been a massive sort of shift and education around the industry at large. The fact that all these companies here, and ourselves included, have made it accessible to people, not only in South Africa, but throughout Africa, to actually become involved in financial markets, has seen massive growth in the industry. So there is an evolution. But one thing is for sure is that, given the demographics of Africa, given the fact that we've got such a young population looking for ways to make money online, we've seen huge growth, not only in terms of numbers, but also just in terms of the knowledge base here in Africa. And education is the key. So if that's your game, you're in the right place.
Well, Amar, now you've been in Africa for a long time. What advice would you give someone like Ricardo, someone who's thinking about entering the African market?
I think, it's so cliche to say the African market is unique, but the reality is that it is. We've seen it over and over with products that may be successful in the European market, simply not being understood in the African market. I'll concur entirely with what Paul says in terms of education being the driving factor, because you could literally have a gold bar that you're selling to somebody for half the price of its worth. But if they don't understand the dynamic of it and understand what it means for them, they will never take it. And the beauty of the African market is that everybody is really education hungry.
Yeah.
We're seeing it super enthusiastically right now on the crypto market that's now starting to sprout up quite largely. We've had a very proactive regulation for it, which is why we're actually launching a straight up crypto exchange division. But it's because the FX market is now demanding more for the growth that's occurring in the fintech space.
And I think, I take your point, and I think also it's often conflated together where access equals adoption. And it kind of touches on what you were saying about education, and it's about educating people about the right products, the right access, the right way to build their wealth slowly and conservatively over time, and providing the right tools. And that's what we're trying to do when we entering the different African countries. It's fragmented at the end of the day. And quite often there's a one approach to every country in Africa, and I think you have to take a prudent approach and look at each individual country and its unique aspects and its unique requirements, and cater your product to those countries individually.
And Webull operates all over the world. What surprised you about Africa, or what have you learned early on?
I think what surprises me about Africa, the country, I'm South African, and born and bred here. I've worked all over the world in the markets, but I think what's surprising about Africa is the excitement about being involved in this and gaining that access to global opportunities. I think for a very long time, Africa has been a little bit of a copy and paste approach, where global brokers have just squeezed in whatever products to African clients, whereas I think we're now at a point where brokers are being more targeted about providing the right sort of products and services to the individual countries and individual clients that are in those countries.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, if you look at the general landscape, in 2020 there were 450 financial services companies throughout the African continent. And at the beginning of 2024, we were looking at over 1,300. So at this stage, we're probably sitting at, 1,500, 1,600 financial services providers. And we're talking about 5 industry leaders here and how we're putting together products and services to service that industry. But I think that the boom that has experienced over the last couple of years from a financial services perspective really relates to that educational side. You know, and that's something that we're very, very focused on at ATFX. We're actually partnering with a very big educational institution to provide educational material throughout the African continent that would not only be sort of pre-approved, but also accredited educational material. And in so doing, help people to sift through all of these financial services providers to find the ones that are giving the right combination of products and services, multi-asset classes on a trusted platform. And I think that's really the key moving forward for the African continent as we are flooded with all of these new products and neo-banking, etc. I think that's really the key going forward.
Yeah.
Alex, I'd like to ask you, what's working right now in terms of marketing dollars? I mean, you have all this, I guess, a flood of entrants into this market, a flood of people who want to get involved in this market. How do you reach them?
So for us, as all of you said, education is a very important part of our strategy. And education is not just another department or another activity or another marketing scheme that we do. Education is and should be in the core of our business, in our mission statement. And we've seen a shift by going out to seminars, meeting with people, having all these road shows, meeting with them face to face. We've seen a shift in the client mindset by not just by consuming content, because education is not about consuming content. Education is about learning, interacting with us, applying what you learn, and at the end of the day, get more success. So for us, education is the way to make our clients more successful and ourselves more successful. And I can give you some stats. The average lifespan of a client a few years ago was a few months. Right now, we're more than 12 months, almost at 15 months. So we're seeing clients trading more, but also trading more successfully. Another very important factor is the withdrawal to deposit ratio. Clients are not just trading more, they are withdrawing more. So they are trading more successfully. And we believe that this is what brings success to the broker and to the client, this win-win situation. So for us, the most successful growth strategy has been education.
Yeah, okay, well, like at a more granular level, guys, what is driving that? You know, what is like a single initiative, either within education or something else that's growing that lifetime value?
So look, I'm going to jump in on that. I think it's a large facet of not just, okay, we provide an education, similar to what Alex would have said. It's more the demand-driven education that's sort of necessitating more of a focus for a quality academic level type of product to a client out there. You find at this stage, if you look comparatively to last decade, where the average trader came in on the retail basis to try and turn around large percentages of profit over quick periods of time, it's no longer the case. There's more prudent decisions being taken with money, and I think, post-COVID, economically, financial strains are quite existent. But there are so many facets playing into the dire need for quality understanding of the financial literacy involving your income, that we have the regulatory stance where there's large promotion of basic financial literacy. There's also large-scale promotion of understanding good providers and providers who are aligned with your need. It's not just a matter of a single need from a client base, but more an ecosystem that's evolving around the average trader mindset, which we don't see just in South Africa. I mean, from our perspective, we see this even sort of evolving largely in the LATAM market as well.
Right. And if I could also just jump in there, I mean, in terms of the education part of it, there's almost a secondary benefit to it, is when the clients are better educated and it's like demand driven, like you mentioned, there's a risk management element that comes into it. The clients are stretching their lifetime value, they're making better decisions, and it also benefits the broker. And when the brokers are giving quality content and quality education, there's a symbiotic relationship. You know, what we do also with Webull, it's not just about content as a marketing tool. It's like my colleague over here mentioned, it's about part of the whole package. You know, we partner with people like CME Group, CBOE, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ to provide webinars from these massive institutions. And that, again, that drives trust, and the trust is what makes the clients come and use the platform and stick with the platform.
Well, I'll change gears a little bit towards products. Linton, at ATFX, you know, I want to talk about regulated CFDs in crypto. You were one of the first movers in that space. You know, it's obviously a very hot space again right now. Where do you see the opportunities in crypto, and where do you see the demand and some of the challenges?
Yeah, so, you know, in the crypto space, especially in the CFD world, we've really seen a pickup in demand. I mean, obviously guys have had access to like spot crypto for quite some time. But I find that, you know, if you look at the median age throughout Africa, it's about 20 years old. So, you know, Gen Z, etc., younger people are looking for an all-inclusive platform, one place where they can access a multi-asset approach. And providing CFDs on our platform gives us that opportunity where it's an additional asset class amongst all the others where people have access to. So the demand is constantly increasing, and it's because it's a trusted platform. You know, we offer it through our OTC license, and obviously the FSP license as well. So having all of these different asset classes, stocks, crypto, indices, forex, etc., all on one platform creates a lot of credibility and trust. And along with the education material that we'll be rolling out soon, from an accreditation perspective, I think it just makes a much safer ecosystem for people to interact. And I think that's where the major opportunity lies. You know, super apps with all-inclusive offerings, with everything involved, from insurance through to trading, through to stock investing, single stocks, futures, etc., is definitely going to be something that we move towards. And I think that us offering crypto CFDs on our license or on our platform is one step closer to achieving that goal.
Well, what is the consensus here around super apps? It's something we're going to talk about. And, you know, can you differentiate yourself? You know, insurance seems to be a long ways from trading, but I mean, money is money, and people want to deal maybe with one counterparty.
I think on that note, if you look at something like WeChat in China, and you see a super app working as of today, and you've got people doing multiple things on there where they're socializing, they're investing, they're doing their banking. Is it ready for our industry, and is our industry ready to be on there? The only thing I would say about that, and the only caution I would have, is around the support side of things. So, you know, in the same way that if something goes wrong or if you have a question, do you have that same level of support through a super app that you would have dealing directly with a broker? I'm not sure that you would as of today. So, yeah, rolling it down the line, yes, I think it'll be part of that. But as of where we stand today, I don't think we're quite ready for that. Just to get onto that product as well, and just tying the education point earlier, one thing that education brings, and education, the beauty about it is it's everywhere. You know, you can access it online. There's multiple ways to get that education. But it also leads to a more discerning trader at the end of the day. And they then place high demands on the broker, especially around two areas. And the one area is access to money. How quick can that be? Is it instant? And the second one is the product itself. Things like slippage and those type of things. And those are the areas that we look at Exness. We look at the data. What do the traders want? Can we increase the speed at which we can get people's money back to them? And we're currently around 98% of withdrawals happening in less than a minute.
That adds so much trust when you can do that.
Absolutely, and it's not only for us, but for the industry at large. And then the second thing is around the product itself. So slippage is one of the things that traders, as they become more educated and discerning, they really become interested and they don't want slippage. And we went to the product team and said, right, this is the mandate, go and reduce slippage. And now we're at, I think, 99% of trades have zero slippage at Exness. And we're talking about millions and millions of
Well,
trades.
it's a volatile market too.
Absolutely, even in times of big volatility. So from the Super Act, I don't think we're ready, but from a product perspective, we're getting better along with the traders.
If I can also, just with regards to this, the Super app, I mean, much like you, I'm also a little bit conflicted about it. You know, I see the services and products where it's suitable, and then I also see the other side where, you know, if you're going to try and bundle all sorts of things together, it brings in a certain amount of complexity. I'm not sure clients also want some closed-off ecosystem that they must operate in. People ultimately want choice. And I mean, I guess our approach to it in a way is a little bit on a bit of a modular side, is that we'll focus on what we're really good at, and that's providing investment products. And then we will partner with people who are best in class in terms of what they do and bring that onto the platform, be that crypto, be that payments or whatever. But where I think the focus should be is in the interoperability of platforms where clients can seamlessly move between different products and platforms that they like without having to go through unnecessary processes, re-KYC yourself, move money around. If that movement between different products and services is seamless, I think that's where you want to be focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a pitfall. If people are selling credit and their credit cards and trading in the same account, I mean, you have this cross-selling opportunity that I think a lot of people in financial services would like, but it can be, I'm not sure that serves the client. Anyway, we're talking about really online and making things work online. But Alex, I wanted to talk to you about the human element. You said here last year that a handshake was the best way to do business. And I just want to talk about the value. We've talked a lot about education or in-person education, and who is it? And this event as well is this a live in-person thing? We spend so much of our lives online now, and I think to everyone's detriment. Who do you want to meet here, and what is it that you would like to do in person, or you think people should be doing more of in person?
Yeah, no, thanks for remembering that. Look, the answer is we want to shake hands with everyone, but not just anyone. So in any big business like HFM, partnerships are a fundamental core value of the company. You can't grow without partnerships. So you need to shake hands with clients, partners, service providers, even your local people, your local employees are your partners. However, a partnership and a handshake should be focused on mutual trust and a shared vision. So if a potential partner doesn't share the same values like us, doesn't have the same long-term vision, doesn't have the same ethics that we do, it's not gonna be viable. We don't want it. We only shake hands with the people that share the same value. And on that context, it can be anyone. However, it's super important to note that people have different needs. So for us, a handshake means we have the same vision, we're going towards the same goal, and it's super important to do it physically. So we identify those people, we go down on the ground with them, we look them in the eye, and that is our handshake.
No, and I really encourage anyone here, you can meet the top people in this industry, get a feel for the people who are trying to do it the right way, who really do value the education and extending, trading with you, working with you, making you a better trader. As someone who's been doing this a long time, it's a constant growth journey. And speaking of that, Amar, we're talking about traders and sort of traders. We want them to understand the broker business as well, because I think it helps them understand what they're getting from a broker. So you move to a pure ECN model. Do traders understand what that means and what value that brings? And what was the motivation for you to do that in the challenge?
I think it's an interesting question because, I mean, there's many theories out there in the retail market in terms of, what is SCP, what is ECN, how do these things actually work? But if you take the layman on the street, and I'll use an example of a crypto enthusiast who's now banking his crypto with us, now suddenly wants to start trading in the CFD space. It means nothing to him to understand what the ECN model is. We could have that conversation, we can explain the entirety of it, but I think the importance of that is understanding where our client base came in demanding that. So we predominantly at the outset of the beginning of TD, we attracted more of an asset manager type of client, not the retail person on the street wanting to trade FX. And for us, it was about tailoring that product to be able to suit large flows, to be able to suit trading that's taken at an advisory perspective, at a discretionary perspective from actual asset managers. I mean, of course, that opened the door for that product to be available on a bigger retail basis. But the operational woes that come with that is that it's not always understood where the limitations may fall in. You may ask yourself right now, is there ever going to be a point, I mean, you're trading with a broker, is there going to be a point where you can take a trade and, well, the broker simply can't fulfill your trade? There is a reality in the ECN space where you're an asset manager, you're looking for $1 billion worth of net open position limits, and that starts playing a crucial role to us in how we operationally cater for that from a margin-based perspective. But the retail trader on the average basis doesn't really seem to care too much about whether it's an ECN model or whether it's a market-made model or not. I think the critical factor, and all of the gentlemen on stage here with me have sort of raised it. I resonate with the same thing in that the model is based on the trust and the servicing that you have with your clients. You asked the question about an in-person interaction. We're here to see people, to ensure that they understand that we're real people. The online financial world is vast. Currently, if you look at the statistics around it, growth for our industry, and from a measurable perspective in Africa, is at a 312% year on year. That's more and more people diving into the online sphere of what you can do with your money. But at the end of it, it still boils down to a factor of trust. And that trust can only really exist with that handshake. You've got to be able to put reality to where your money sits.
Well, and that's why it's so great to be here. I mean, we've seen these same faces year after year, and it's our hope that there's this, African-centric financial services industry that builds up here with the people who come in early and the people who have established here, and they're strong enough at some point when the rest of the world comes to Africa that can push back and can still thrive with that, with those local connections. And just turning back to education, what is working? I mean, can any of you talk about what's really working in person, online? What do people want, or what should they want?
Yeah, so I think that's also a very interesting question. I mean, everybody's got their own sort of a approach to how they want to do education, present education, and what's working. I think there's a bit of a disconnect between what traders believe they need and want and what they actually require, right? So most guys believe, and although we have seen a change in sophistication over the last few years, I think a lot of guys believe that you can come in and you can spend 3 months learning how to trade and become a successful trader quickly. Watch a few YouTube videos, maybe attend a few webinars and feel like that's enough to give you the knowledge that you need in order to be a successful trader. From our perspective, and this is why we're embarking on this journey with this online education provider throughout Africa, is we feel like that there's a big disconnect between that and what is actually needed. There's far more foundational work that's required. Understanding who are the actual parties to, the market. How is it structured? How is it put together? How does the banking environment work? How do the PSPs work? How does the flow of funds work? Not only that, but also just understanding the entire ecosystem, and then from there moving into the actual trading side of it. So it's setting that foundation, and then it's going through a proper set educational structure that we're going to take people through, whether it's going to be 6 months, 12 months, or 24 months. We're still working on that project, but I think that's really going to revolutionize the way that we present education as a brand, and hopefully how traders also experience that educational level coming through.
Good. Yeah, people need to hear that over and over. Let's talk about.
Just to add to what Linton said is that, about education, it should be at the point of contact, at the point of where the client is needing to understand that topic. And quite often it's just, almost like a marketing tick box. It's a separate website. People don't necessarily go there. They don't know what they're looking for. It needs to be as part of the journey while the client is on the platform. Is not understanding something, that's where they can get their education from. And I think that's also where AI can play quite an important role there, by understanding exactly what the client is needing at that moment.
Yeah, what a powerful tool that is.
And just, one last point on education. As as someone who at one point knew very little to someone who hopefully knows a little bit, I think as a new person in the industry, be eclectic in terms of where you're going to get your education from. Because there's an old saying in the market, which is traders will always talk their own book. But what does that mean? If everyone says the market's going up, it probably means that everyone's long already, and the most predictable move is actually that the market then comes off. So it's very important when you're gathering your own education sources to understand that there's bias exists, and be eclectic. It's not just learning about candlesticks, it's learning about, the inner workings of financial markets. What makes a market go up and down, things like spread, the actual product that you're going to be trading. So be eclectic in your approach, and gather the information, as you say, as and when you need it.
Yeah, we've got some great panels along those lines. I mean, reading a room is so important right now, and everybody moves at once. But I want to talk about what helps traders behind the scenes, Paul, and things that they're not really thinking about, like infrastructure for order routing. Something you invested heavily in and matching. Are you seeing that investment bear fruit? And how, is it driving new clients? Is it working? Should people be investing in these sorts of endeavors rather than marketing? Where's the balance in all this?
I think I heard all your questions. So, look, we're one of the largest brokers in the world, and we've got a model that revolves around market making. So we've seen massive growth in the number of clients and the trade volume that's come through over the last couple of years. What we're doing, I think, is working, and I think the numbers do testify to that. Ultimately, it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more liquidity you have access to, the better the trading conditions you can offer. The better the trading conditions you can offer, the more traders are going to trade, and therefore the more liquidity you're going to end up with. So there are things going on sort of under the hood, things like spread reduction, especially around periods of volatility, as I alluded to earlier, really focusing in on things like slippage, trying to remove slippage, trying to speed up withdrawals so people have access to money. Ultimately, as I said, traders are becoming more discerning. They need a better product, and we spent a lot of our time focusing on the product. Now, it's not just the product, there's also the people side to it. There is no product without people, and that's why we have our local team here and based here locally in Cape Town, because the people have to drive that product. They have to have the conversations with members of the public so we can feed back and improve the product even more. So it's a combination of product and people, and I think we're getting it right.
Can any of you speak to what we should be investing in right now?
Yeah.
I mean, you're all competing with each other right now for clients who are here. Where do you want to invest?
Personally, I think, Adam, that I like what my colleague said, but I want to tweak it a little bit, because sometimes I'm asked, Alex, why are you spending so much money on road shows, seminars, going out, meeting people, shaking hands? What's this all about? Isn't this an online industry at the end of the day? Couldn't we be doing this online? Why do you need to spend all this money? Do you see any return on the investment? The answer is no. The answer is simply no. We spend more money when we go down than the money we make that day, that week, even that month. But it's not about the money. It's about getting out of our echo chamber. It's about listening to our clients. And someone will say, hey, it's an online industry. Why can't you listen online? Everything happens online. People are living online these days. No. Online, you get biased opinions. Online, you hear the influencers. You hear the key opinion leaders. I am more interested about the person behind the screen rather than the person inside the screen, because he is my market. He's the one I want to listen to. And HFM would be celebrating 15 years of existence this year and success if we hadn't listened to our clients. Some of our greatest innovations came by listening to our clients. So instead of us forcing to people what we think they want, we listen to them and we adjust our systems, products and services according to what clients need, especially in Africa, where clients' needs are much more diverse.
Well, it's a little bit like going back to the human element again. I feel like we've almost come a little bit full circle, where fintech was almost remove the human element and make it as slick as possible. But we've almost come full circle again there, where the human element is the differentiator now. Can I speak to somebody who knows what I need help with? When you come to events or you go to meetups and things, when the client meets and speaks to humans of the company, it does things very quickly. suddenly there's trust, suddenly there's better client retention, suddenly there's better deposits. The clients like that element of it, and they respond to it quite positively.
Okay, great.
I'm going to jump in there very quickly. I know we're wary of time.
No, we're good.
So I'm going to agree and slightly disagree with what Alex says, right? Because let's look at the reality here. Right? All of this here today, all of our entities, why do we exist? For money. I mean, the clients are looking to make money. The asset managers are looking to make money. The liquidity provisioning requires money. We exist as a business to generate a profit. Yes, we want to understand our clients. We want to understand the best part of the clients. But our biggest investment is in understanding what exactly the client need is. So we spoke about super apps. We spoke about single organism type of ecosystems. The benefit behind that is you can understand where the diversity of needs exists with every single person. Yes, we might not necessarily tie up your life insurance policy with a trading account. It doesn't really make too much sense. But if I knew that, okay, you're looking at actually highly volatile crypto CFDs right now, where you can actually trade that on leverage, and guess what? Every other day you're having to refund your account because you're out of margin. We're going to have a better understanding of, okay, on this specific client set, we need to push better education to understanding risk management. We need to push better education to understanding maybe you should be trading a perpetual crypto future because that's on a lower type of leverage basis. But understanding the client is really where we have the biggest investment, and that comes in many forms, whether it's the resources from a people perspective or whether it's the resources from a technology perspective, which at this stage is really endless. There really isn't an end to what we can and can't do. But on the point of, well, not really caring about the money, I think it's important for us all to really accept the fact that this entire industry exists because of the need to make money. Make money work for you, generate a return on investment, whatever it might be that exists. We exist as a business to make money. We make ECN transactional revenue, which is great. It's fabulous. It gives us a better way to understand a client without having any conflict with what's happening with that client. But even on the other end of the spectrum, with a market making model, you could still actually understand the dynamic behind every single action that client takes, purely from the trade flow of the client. So I think we do need to accept the realities, and the larger client market as well does need to understand that brokers exist, or at least most brokers exist for the benefit of the client. Yeah. If your broker is consistently seeking to provide a service value add to you, that's sort of the right place to be. Then you've got to ask yourself why you're not engaging in that. Because the bigger your engagement, the bigger your knowledge pool is going to improve, and you can determine whether you're taking the right decisions for your finances.
Yeah, well, it works. It builds that trust, right?
But I'm not sure how this disagrees with what I said, because in my mind, we personally, at HFM, we're not here to make money. Money is an outcome. We're here to better people's lives. We're here to help them, and through that, make money. Money should not be the goal. Money should always be an outcome of the goal, which is to better people's lives.
Sure. Well, wonderful. Okay, we've got just a couple minutes left. I'd like to go, one by one here and ask you, what's one headline you'd like to see about your company, or a prediction for the year ahead? A headline you expect to see from your company, something that you're planning to do in the year ahead, or a prediction about something that's going to happen in the industry or with your company?
Well, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times now. I'm going to say it again. I think the headline that we want to see is that we've presented and put together the most resourceful educational platform. That's the biggest gap in the African market, and the project that we're busy with fills that gap completely, both face-to-face, physically, and online. We cover the entire Africa region, and I think that's the headline that we'd like to see. If we can fill that gap and constantly work on the technology to provide that to people and help to increase financial inclusion throughout the African continent as well through investing in technology, that's the legacy that ATFX wants to start creating.
From my perspective, I mentioned earlier on, we're launching TDME in about a week, which is the TD Markets Exchange. That headline would be along the lines of, well, TDME assists the broader African market with satisfying financial needs. We're doing this in partnership with, for example, the Stellar Foundation, with stablecoin development to be able to facilitate needs of transacting in a safe and efficient manner across a few different African regions. And I think most recently, one of the High Court judgments with regards to the exchange control regime in South Africa is a big win for the broader picture of evolution of money in South Africa. So that headline would really sit along the lines of how we can actually better help not just cross-border transacting, but also immigrants into our beautiful South African country.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of a headline about a little bit of South African rand strength. I think that would be nice as well.
It's coming. That's not financial advice. I think my headline would be around numbers. We're one of the largest brokers in the world, and I think traders vote with their feet or with their fingers, and continued growth in our customer base and our trade volume is the best indicator to me that we're doing the right things. More people are choosing us, and they're doing so for a reason. So, in short, just numbers continuing to grow as they have been.
Yeah, from Webull's perspective, I mean, we're quite new to the South African market, but I guess the headline we'd like to see, we're very technology orientated, so we'd like to be a headline that's along the lines of how transparent our systems are, how technology driven they are, and essentially that we're setting some sort of standard within the industry.
Yeah, I foresee that the industry will shift towards a more compliant focus. We see ourselves playing an important role in this, not just doing things right, but doing the right things. We want to make sure that this industry is starting to become more and more sustainable for the long run. And at the end of the day, we want to make HFM a household brand. So when you think online trading, like when you think cold drinks, Coca-Cola, maybe online trading HFM. That's our vision.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, guys. We're almost out of time here. I think about this panel. We're just seeing the increase in professionalism throughout the whole industry, and this trust and this staying power. And, it's such an opportunity for the people here to meet and to get a sense of the company values here, and even a little bit of sense of the competition within the panel for clients. But, 1.5 billion people in Africa, there's going to be tremendous growth in this space, and really sticking around and growing that kind of client lifetime value through education is something we're very passionate about. And the market's always changing. And it really is, a young person's game, and this is a young person's continent. So it's been an absolute pleasure to host this. We're going to have a lot of, I know for the traders out there, there's going to be a lot more trader-focused sort of panels coming up next, and I think there's a lot that we can teach each other, share some of that experience. But please do meet some of these men around this event in the next couple days. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how engaged they are, and how knowledgeable they are, and how much fun they are to be around. So thank you very much for coming out today, and looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.